Welcome all you tech enthusiasts, you curious minds, and those navigating the electrifying world of bits and bytes. This is 𝐏𝐸𝐻, the podcast that promises to be your guide through this ever-evolving universe of IT and beyond. We'll be diving deep into the intricacies of IT industry, from market and technology insights, recruitment and career advice, to leadership in digital age. And, of course, a few surprises that go beyond the realms of binary, I hope. So, let's do it. Hi everyone, I'm Adrian Bednarz, and today we're changing the name of the podcast to Talk R&D to Me, because we're talking about research and development, and I have some great guests with me. I have Damyr and Bohdan. Hi guys, how you doing?
Doing good. Nice to meet you. Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Perfect, good. So I have to be honest with you. So R&D is actually one of my favorite topics when it comes to IT. So I'm a bit biased here. Like I always loved working with R&D, with Mikola, Zoriana, right? It's great space to kind of talk about innovation. And hopefully we'll talk about this kind of aspect of R&D today. But first, maybe let's start with some introductions. Bohdan, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about you.
Try to pronounce my name correctly, like Bohdan, right?
Thank you.
My name is Bohdan Khomych, and basically I'm leading our R&D products practice with a focus on making repeatable solutions based on what we research in R&D, but then basically together with its development hand, make it also viable for production usage. So it's somewhere in between the actual technology implementation and the fundamental research that is done within other groups.
Okay. So working with kind of feasible product that might end up being on the market at some point.
Yeah, there are quite more steps before, but basically products is the ultimate meta goal that we are going toward, I would say.
Okay, perfect. And how long you've been with SoftServe?
Oh, it's almost 2 years. Even though it doesn't feel like 2 years, it feels much longer. But 2 years, it's not already a newborn or freshman, but I mean, it's still learning new and discovering all the beautiful parts of the SoftServe.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I like the anecdote. Perfect. Good, thank you. Damyr, tell us about yourself.
My name is Damyr Hadiiev. I run R&D science team. So exactly the closest thing that can get about science at SoftServe will happen most likely in my team. We have different divisions. One of them, I must say, something closer to advanced AI, the deepest knowledge about artificial intelligence you can get. And another one is, I would say, more scientific another way, something that is related to computational physics, something that is related to quantum computing, blue sky research, but we also try to keep it kind of tangible and make sense for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sounds quite complex then, sciencey.
I love that. That's the best job ever. So,
I was about to ask a question to you guys. Like, do you need to be a kind of nerd or geek to be in R&D? But I know the answer because it's no, you don't need to be. But I kind of when talking about kind of the sciencey part of R&D, you kind of have to love it, right, in order to actually enjoy it and add value, right?
I am nerd. I have to confess.
Nothing wrong with that.
I don't know if you need to be nerd, but like it definitely will help you, most likely.
I know, perfect.
For me, it feels like you need to have kind of passion and commitment, because whenever you would like to learn something new, especially on the cutting edge, you should have a little bit much more commitment than the others in order to discover it, to spend some more time after the work in order to check new articles, check new materials. So, I mean, for me, it feels like when you are committed, it's a little bit closer and make you easier to be in this R&D environment.
Yeah, this is mostly because R&D is not kind of a defined path, right? As you said, like you need to be curious, you need to, be a self-study sometimes, you need to discover the world. Nobody will tell you, I mean, maybe somebody will, but like there's no clear path, in what kind of development you can learn or go into. Like you need to discover it, you need to research it and kind of then try to apply it somewhere, right? So self-study, curiosity helps.
Well, I will comment on that actually, because there is a very clear scientific method, right? So if you want to do research, you need to conduct your feasibility study, you need to make literature review, and those steps are already fulfilled by scientific community. So basically, if you want to do research, it's not only creativity, it's not only gathering new ideas. Like there is a pretty strict framework to follow, and then you will end up with some discovery and creation in the end.
Okay.
What frameworks of it help?
Yeah, shouldn't reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's one of the credos we probably held after 𝐊𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 started trying. I mean, you jump to your head, but that was something like, don't reinvent the wheel. If there is like the clear process, you can follow it and already get the results. So if you start reinventing the process, then it's hard to reinvent the subject of the research itself, right?
I get it, yeah. Things can go horribly wrong if you start reinventing the wheel. That's true. Okay, guys, so we kind of steered off. What I wanted to maybe start with is, research and development is such a kind of vast term and quite vast area. Like, what kind of areas does R&D cover? Like some of them at least, in SoftServe, for example.
Well, first one and beloved one is quantum computing. That's basically my former team. That's, I would say, on the further side of the technology horizon. We truly believe that quantum revolution will happen, and we need to be prepared for that. Also, we do computer vision, we do machine perception, we do efficient AI, because currently a lot of things happening in AI, and they all require a lot of computations, and you need to do it somehow effectively, and you need to know how to craft it. There is a huge, substantial engineering layer to all of this kind of activity. Also, we do, as I mentioned, computational physics, drug discovery, all the brilliant things, and of course, not to mention HPC.
Yeah, HPC is important, and maybe on the other hand, right, in order to then deliver these beautiful things to the market, you also may need another components. For example, hardware. That's why we, for example, have its own hardware prototyping lab where the things are coming from turning into actual physics, I would say. Then there are the expertise in embedding development, also to program all these algorithms on the on-prem, on the edge devices, make it work efficiently as well. And I mean, in the end, you need to interact with those devices as well. So, I mean, devices or products or whatever. So then we have like interactive team who help to create really natural and seamless interfaces between machine and the human. So that basically overall concept and idea, and combining different expertise together and basically bringing smart people to work together and make the research together, help us in the result, get something tangible that might be a product, and something where typically my team help with.
Good. Oh, makes sense. Perfect. One question about quantum dome. How far are we?
Well, we are everywhere. We do applied research. We do very deep fundamental research. We do hardware evaluation. We try to get up with to keep up with all the recent updates in the technology, and new paper is published almost every week. They are to the same pace as it would happen in generative AI, for example. Okay. So,
is quantum computing kind of a far away future for us, or is it somewhere on the horizon we can see it's actually becoming a reality for more?
It depends.
Purposes.
What are your expectations? So, for example, if you think about some applications in physics or chemistry that are definitely important for manufacturing and for different things that are very hands-on, I think it should happen earlier than later. So I would say that within next 10 years time frame, most likely we will get major breakthrough.
Years, I mean.
Nice.
But for other things that are even more promising, for like finance, for optimization, for all of the things, I would think that most of the impact will happen after 20 years or something.
Okay. Still, I'll be alive, hopefully, then.
You know, like nuclear fusion, always in 15 years. But let's not stick to this example.
But still, like, industry full of funding, right? So there is some players that benefits already, right? Someone who developed middleware layer for the future quantum hybrid systems. Someone who developed hybrid, like quantum computers itself. So, I mean, those players who create those future foundation, they already kind of...
They already require some workforce to help them to do it. They need to have some baked research to help them. So it's viable thing even right now.
Okay. Perfect. I wanted to make a cheesy joke that whether I can place Minesweeper on a quantum computer, but I'm not going to.
There is a Doom implementation on quantum. At least on simulator.
Yeah. Okay, let's wait for those days. Perfect. No, but you guys, you mentioned one topic you want to dig deeper a bit on this episode, which is GenAI. Yeah. So let's maybe talk about this because, again, artificial intelligence is everywhere right now. And GenAI seems to be everywhere alongside of it, right? Everyone is talking about it, using it. So let's maybe focus on it and maybe kind of unpeel some of the layers of what it is and how this can actually help us. So first, what is GenAI actually? why we're talking about it? Who's taking this question?
I can take it.
Okay.
Well, generative AI is a set of algorithms that are capable of generating something. It could be text, audio, it can be video, but this is something that is conventional. Or it might be a distribution of the atoms within your lattice if you want to, because basically it's stated in its name that it's capable of generation of something. And we will think that this model will be creative if it's capable of generation of something that wasn't in its original training data set. So if from different pieces that this model collected originally, you can create something new, that would be a very successful generative model. And we see this boom currently everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. Do you want to tell us something?
I'm just thinking about the concept Damyr said, and I agree with that concept. And it's scary to think that almost a few years ago, this transformer type of architecture was developed, and now almost on 2.5-3 years, we have such an, I would say, advanced infrastructure already in place, and it's continue rapidly developed. And then like LLMs, diffusion models, whatever, that's not only algorithms probably we will see for generative AI. It should expand in order to meet this final AGI or whatever it's called in the industry step. So, I mean, when just AI can become eventually, I wouldn't play with the definition because it's too populistic to play with its definition, but definitely, I mean, I think we will also see the development not only with some existing architecture, but new one that will be much more complex and closer to the real abstract reasoning thinking that should be achieved.
Okay. See, because I use GenAI all the time, I mean, it's fantastic, to be honest, helps a lot. But what I wonder is, in the spirit of the question, how it works. Like, how does it sound so human? Like, I know it studies data, right? But like, it kind of, you ask the question and it comes up with this unique answer that sounds like, again, a human on the other side, which is this artificial intelligence. This is scary to me, right? But how's that achieved? Is it through this algorithm, through this data that it kind of operates upon? Like, how is that even possible?
I would say that, in my opinion, there are two components to it. First of all, is the scale of the data in the training. We see for the first time that huge efforts that are put into the scale of machine learning models to apply them for some particular problem. That's one thing. And another thing is that very efficient scheme that allows you to implement transformers architecture and to, for example, understand the request, to understand the value of the text unit that you need to generate in scope of other units. So that's expressiveness of the model times scale times data. Exactly.
Okay.
And possibility to predict next letter eventually, right? I mean,
that's the one.
Basically, that's sometimes it might feel very simple to get such, as you mentioned, human type of answer, because like eventually there are, of course, much more complexity, but it predicts next symbol, but I mean, or next letter or whatever. But I mean, because of the data set, it brings these capabilities into the world, and it feels like it understands not only predict, right? So that's for the text generation, at least.
Yeah, and again, all fun and games, but kind of putting aside, asking ChatGPT for, I don't know, writing me a script to this podcast, it actually brings value as well, right? It brings value to a business, to a person.
Squeezing right now,
Exactly, just taking most out of it. But, talking about business side of it, like how and what ways, GenAI has impacted, the speed of innovation or approach to innovation in R&D, for example. Has it helped you? Do we see innovation happen quicker because of it, or has no impact whatsoever?
I think first thing would be a quote of some famous machine learning researcher, is that the most common programming language for me is now English. Because plain English, I mean, because it helps a lot. Currently, it's capable of solving very unobvious problems, and it makes my developer's life much easier. That would be the first impact. The speed of development, speed of prototyping increased significantly. I'm not speaking about the way that we can craft a lot of different presentations that are crafted with ChatGPT and then that are read by some agents and parsed. But in terms of the effectiveness of doing your work. That's definite.
But it's the scary thing, you also wake up, open your Outlook, and then you see last 3 emails were AI generated, and you start thinking, should I as a human process it? Should I waste my time? So earlier I spent much more of my time generating emails. Now I spend much of my time of processing, especially I dislike when one is fully generated by AI. It really feels, because there are those kind of predefined tones, and then you start reading it. Okay, fingers crossed the person put here their own thoughts and just reformat the text. But when eventually it appears that no thoughts put it in, I mean, oh my God, and I just process it. I use my human brain. I use my capabilities instead of delegating it for another AI agent.
It's true, actually. It's scary because, again, there's certain markers that differentiates AI-generated text from, normal, natural, human-generated text. And one of them, my friend who works in Google actually kind of mentioned this to me, because I created a website and I asked ChatGPT just to create content for the website for just a time being, right? And it created this content, and then my friend kind of reviewed this website and said, listen, I know you're using ChatGPT. Can you remember to kind of change this to your own personal thoughts when you want to release this website? Because he saw a lot of words like delve into something, right? Normally you would say dive in, right? But ChatGPT uses delve, and there's so many different kind of those identifications for AI writing the content.
There are prompts to reduce number of those things, so you can fix it kind of with generative AI if you want to. So.
That's true.
Yeah, the kind of new world or career development will now focus on prompt engineering, for example, right? There's a lot of those right now. It's trying to study how to best use generative AI.
But in general, there are a lot of different values, right, to generative AI, not only speeding up the writing of emails or writing the code. It actually solves some fundamental problems. It's capable of generating content like marketing verticals and all of those businesses who relate on visual content created or textual content created. This will definitely help them, but it will help in very unobvious things like in drug discovery, because in the end of the day, your molecule is just a sequence of letters, and you just want to predict new letters in this sequence, and it will help you a lot as well.
And eventually it helps R&D as well, even to do the research, it's sometimes an even more faster or convenient way to find some information, right? So, not always, but I use it pretty often.
But even you can comment on creativity of human beings in R&D. So recently I read 2 papers that for me are pretty critical to review. First paper said that GenAI is capable of generating novel research ideas that will be claimed more innovative than PhD level humans. And it was evaluated by 50 plus scientists. So basically there is a framework how to craft the prompt to LLM and to get research idea with certain steps to reproduce. And most likely it will be really nice result, more novel than you can imagine with your pure cool human imagination. And the second one is end-to-end scientific article generation in machine learning, for example. So there is a framework, you just put the topic there, you put some information about the framework, how you would like to deal with this problem. It will follow more than 15 steps and generate a paper that really hard to distinguish if it's written by a human being or by a robot.
And then you asked initially, where is the business value? Business value is huge and tricky at the same time, right? Yeah. Because now we have a lot of AI generated something from creative content to some research papers at the same time. But it also works very well as an assistant or copilot in order to help you to accelerate your routine task or whatever. And then basically, I think business step by step is starting leveraging it because it's more slow, capabilities of computation growing rapidly. But at the same time, I think most of the companies faces with data problems, data management and data quality. And most of the companies didn't solve it well yet. So I assume that currently we are somewhere on the stage of building infrastructure, the same as for quantum, but I mean a little bit more money burned into that process. And after like imagine you have you are building the road, and then the shopping centers will be built afterwards. So that's the same process. Currently we are building like highways where those GenAI applications will flow, and then like business, it will be inevitable to create more and more an application layer. And I think SoftServe already delivered like 100 plus GenAI projects. So it's like, I mean, huge amount, right? So just imagine like almost 2 years, but 100 plus GenAI projects. And I mean, not all of them were successful, right? And some of them were, they already really boosted the production, and they are reasonable for the customers in terms of I get $1, I get some value, because in most of the cases you can create, chatbot on the website that will burn you, $15 per conversation and give like not so reasonably, comparably high value. So, I mean, some of the applications are already found, but as infrastructure became less expensive, models smaller and more clever, I mean, that inevitably will happen. But yeah, I mean, but not of them, all of them were successful. And maybe two things that are on my mind around why they are not. I think a lot of people messed up somehow GenAI and AI in general. So they try to do some classic AI task with GenAI, like, predictive maintenance. I don't know, from this type. It doesn't work with GenAI. Why? Because like GenAI basically is not, you shouldn't expect 100% accuracy, because sometimes when, customer said, I need 100% accuracy, it doesn't work. So hallucinations, all the other factors, you can get good enough summary, but not exact answer. So, and you should understand it when create those use cases. So I think typically those two things are red stoppers for the customers of us, at least when we understand that, okay, it shouldn't be 100% correct, and it shouldn't be the same task as for classic
It would be
AI.
dangerous if it was 100% correct.
I mean, we can already stop doing research probably.
Exactly.
We have this advantage of 1%.
That's where humans are needed. This 1%, absolutely. Good. You kind of touched on two topics, but let's focus on what you just said, Bohdan, because you said SoftServe developed or delivered 200 odd projects within
soon 200, now 100. I mean, somewhere in between.
A lot of projects, GenAI focus or related. Without disclosing any kind of confidential information, can we talk about some of those examples? Like what are clients using GenAI for? How GenAI can help our clients, and what do we use it for? Again, in a spirit of not disclosing any confidential information, but any real life examples?
I know that Damyr's group working a lot on that, but maybe share from my perspective one example with visual generation part that is a little bit more underestimated, because text part is already kind of table stake for the use cases. Visual generation is still emerging. So I think we had a couple of a successful implementation, especially recent one, further than POC stage, at once for production level, when you can kind of change 2D or 3D visuals in a way that you can transfer style, for example, from, romantic Paris to some, urban city or whatever within one picture. And let's imagine, for example, you're an architectural designer and you would like to enhance some exterior or interior design, and then you can just prompt what we'd like to change to your flat, your facility, without actually changing geometry. That means preserving some important part of this image, or even 3D models, but still changing its style. And it's typically takes huge amount of time for designers. Same for marketers, when they would like to quickly generate some visual banners, for example, right? I mean, every marketers use it right now, because now you can just basically upload your brand book, for example, right? It will get all your fonts, all your brand data, colors, tone of voice, whatever, and you can generate close to good for external usage banner, or even we can, I think, even generate one for our session, right? So that should be possible. But that's another use case, and those two type of use cases inspire me, because it's something that wasn't achievable 1 year. Right now it's already in production. So I'm just hope that in the future 1 year it will be even more advanced, maybe with some video generation. But it's still like maybe 10% of the projects. I mean, 90% is still around text generation.
Okay. Sure.
But I can get another example of visual generative AI. So, for example, imagine that you're a broadcasting company and you have multiple cameras working in sync, but sometimes there are gaps between them, and you would like to fill the voids between those cameras. And that's very realistic project that was completed. And generative AI works there very well because most likely you need to fill those gaps in some ambient environment like sky, trees, and it usually feels very natural. You wouldn't be able to see on a quick view on the broadcast when your camera shifts from one angle to another. You will not find any difference, and that would be a great case. Another one is audio GenAI. This is something that we do as a product at SoftServe, and something that was already licensed as a product recently. So basically, sometimes you need to have audio to text generation, and generative AI is very good at that because it understands the context, it understands how to process the input information. But what is tricky part we are working on right now is phoneme level recognition, because sometimes you need to have very accurate phoneme level recognition. And for this phoneme level recognition, you need to understand the sounds. And that's very untrivial thing to solve. And technology evolves. There are a lot of papers, there are a lot of techniques how to do it, but it's like, I must say, one of the most challenging things that we had to deal with like during the last few years.
Okay.
You know, and it's really hard to build a product nowadays in GenAI because new model pop up and then it can basically, you know, replace a lot of things on the market. And I think we are really lucky that we found those niches when we can leverage, kind of orchestrate those foundational AI models, but still having a good either our own trained models or good wrapper in terms of application for those specific use cases. And I think what is worth mentioning is that it's important to do it not only by ourselves, but with partners. We have like good partners like hyperscalers, AWS, Google, but also like NVIDIA is one of the key partner in GenAI development. And together with them, we basically leverage their microservices approach in order to just take different open source AI models, orchestrate them in those microservice architecture called NIM, and then bring it to the market as, you know, customizable solution that still can be licensed because you can use it out of the box, but you still can bring the level of customization you need to fine tune, for example, or add other AI microservices that eventually should pop up in something like agentic AI approach, when you have those a lot of different foundational models communicate with each other and can perform some end-to-end tasks, either creative or more kind of routine type of tasks.
Okay. So it sounds like we are quite deep into this sphere, GenAI. We've done so many projects. We have fantastic partnerships, like you mentioned, with NVIDIA. So I think maybe now is a good time to do something like call to action, and then to our audience, our listeners, for any clients needing help with GenAI or any kind of product development using AI, they can come to us, right? Can we help them?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
we are one of the best in the market. So no marketing, no promotion. It's just just something that it is. But I mean, it's a really competitive market. So it's you can be best in everything. But definitely, you already know a lot of I would say pitfalls on the road that can be avoided, and know how to do it not only for some POC kind of stuff, but already bring it to production. I mean, that's the most amazing part, because I mentioned infrastructure is there, but production reasonable is something that's still really difficult for the companies.
And that's where we come in.
Yeah.
So basically, that's why you would need an R&D. So I will give you an example. For example, currently we work with this ASR product that we are developing. Basically, this product is a result of almost 4 years of expertise in signal processing, in processing of audio, in audio to text and foundational models. And for example, same goes for generative AI in a broader sense. So we thought about transformers architectures starting from early 2018 or so, right after the paper was published. We made webinars about that. We discussed that internally, and when technology rolled out, we know how to deal with that. That's why you need an R&D, because early discovery helps you there, because you need to have people who are able to understand science behind it in order to adopt then it faster.
Oh, that makes sense, actually. Yeah. I meant to ask this question at the beginning of our conversation. Like, do we need R&D? Like, what R&D
Yes, we do.
But
Not because that's the best place to work, but yes, we need.
Yeah. Well, it is the best place to work. I mean, come on, I've asked Nicola a million times if there's a place for me there. Still waiting for the answer. He's a busy guy. Good. Perfect, guys. So we talked about kind of solutions, but then kind of solutions meet with challenges a lot. Like, let's think about, implementation of GenAI or using GenAI. Like, have you encountered any challenges actually with this technology? Because it's still fairly new and there's lots of bugs probably, but what kind of challenges do you normally face with implementation of GenAI into your projects?
First of all, I think in terms of technology adoption, one has to understand that adopting technology is not only that research part of work or calling the API, it's also overall application layer and architecture that has to interact with that. And this is something that I observe commonly within SoftServe. People want to use GenAI. They don't know how to do it properly. They would throw a lot of money to go and use some huge foundational model to the place where they don't need this foundational model, exactly as Bohdan said previously. And then you need to step in and say, okay, you can use much simpler model, or you can distill this huge model to solve that small particular task, and it will save you 10x money or 100x money. It really depends on the situation. So that would be one bottleneck. Of course, you can mention those obvious things like hallucinations for visual GenAI or for text GenAI or for whatever, but quality of those things improves with time and improves significantly. But the actual integration of those tools is usually a pretty big challenge.
Okay. It's like people think that GenAI or AI can fix everything without knowing exactly how.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I also agree with that. So those challenges are typical. Maybe some of the other kind of unsuccessful expectation from the customers that they saw is when you see really good promotional video, like cherry pick video of OpenAI Sora publish their new model. You already can become a filmmaker from the prompt, and it really feels like that. Those shiny things pop up, it warm up the market, and then customer come and say, okay, I would like to do like that tomorrow, but I understand it can be possible for the even following year. It's still like cherry pick scenario, a lot of prompt engineering behind. It might not work for your specific use case. It might require fine tuning. It might cost a lot of money. And when it comes to those specific, setting up the expectation with this rapid pace of innovation is one of the challenge, because customer would like to see what they see in LinkedIn, not where is the reality. And when, typically that's how those short POC are driven. But then when it comes to something more business tangible or viable, then it start using some open source, smaller LLMs that also becoming very popular, 400 billion parameters or like 3 billion parameters. It's just 100 times in difference in terms of cost per inference. So that's why it's important to set up the expectation for the customer and explain them that these startups that suggest you the solution, out of the box solution for 5 cents per, request or whatever, doesn't work with your economy of scale. So you should be focused on long term, on real business value, and then it appears that a lot of work should be done. It's not only API out of the box. If you would like to, host even your own LLM, it's a lot of work.
And it should be tailored, right? It's not always the out of the box works for everyone.
It really depends on the use case.
Yeah.
And actually it comes to the next bottleneck that you might find during your engineering process is lack of data. So for example, if customer wants to have something pretty specialized where you have to work with let's say marketing information for that customer or for some particular audio, you need to find data somewhere. And it's not an easy task to do, because basically those huge foundational models, they already adopted a lot of data out there. And if you would like to tune it to something, it's really hard to introduce some data sets that will not overfit on this model, that it will make sense and will not make your results significantly worse. So this is something that we observed, definitely.
Okay. So to summarize, a lot of challenges. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Perfect. So now I will circle back just briefly on something that you, Damyr, said, which is this kind of balance between AI's creativity versus human creativity. You mentioned that. And this is scary as well, because again, we're talking about AI becoming so kind of human-like that somehow it's difficult to kind of differentiate from our counterparts, human counterparts, right? And are there any, and this is kind of maybe a vague question, but are there any safeguards in place to help us kind of protect ourselves from AI in this sense?
Well, first of all, should we have a protection against AI? I'm not sure that that's a really fair point, because like most likely AI will not will not develop itself as Terminator movie or something
I like
that.
to quote iRobot with Will Smith.
And
you have those rules, right? The 3 rules.
Yeah. So and most likely those protection rules are already inside of all the major models, because no one wants to have this out of control. I think that they will evolve to a certain level that will be significantly better than human level in solving a lot of particular like problems that we thought that are only our human being advantages, like reasoning. So for example, if you have seen one of the latest OpenAI models with chain of dots, it works really nice. It's shown really nice results on very complicated mathematical problems. And those are things that I waited for all my life to happen, honestly speaking, because I believe that we as human beings inside of scientific community, we spend a lot of time to solve tiny, small problems, and our scope of visibility is that thin, very thin, and we are unable to cover everything. But AI will be able to handle all of that context and to solve much more problems than we are. So I believe safe AI, right, responsible AI, all of those things are really important, and people follow that, and there are rules how to train it properly, how to put those safeguards. But in overall, for human prosperity, I believe that advantage will be much more significant than the risks.
And to tell the truth, it's already pretty heavily regulated. For example, in Europe, this AI Act, I can't use advanced mode of ChatGPT on my phone only because of that reason. So for Llama, the same, a lot of vision models are prohibited because they can be used, for example, for some of the use cases they consider as not legal or whatever. So I think it depends on the environment also. So probably in Europe, the pace in format will be different. In the US, you maybe less, I would say, think around those safeguards part in general, but help to grow technology to the next levels.
No, sorry, Damyr.
But that's another question, right? When we try to regulate AI too much, for example, Europe regulates significantly harder than the United States, and the pace of development of AI in Europe is significantly slower, right?
Yeah,
we
exactly.
don't
especially
see
now.
Especially now.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if we want to be in that place.
Right now. No, it was exactly my point I wanted to raise, because it kind of, I see the point behind safeguarding and ethics, absolutely. But then you either do this for all or for none. It's one of the things that you should and again, could be yet another topic of an hour-long podcast, ethics versus value. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the pace of development will be slower in more regulated environments than the ones less regulated. It's just natural, I guess. So let's agree to record a podcast on ethics later. But for now, you also touched on any different answers on the question I wanted to ask you from kind of maybe my perspective. I come from kind of recruitment and career advice background, and the question I always get kind of asked, will AI or GenAI kind of impact our job markets or replace some jobs? You mentioned Bohdan marketing team, so I'm sorry. Sorry to marketing. But will it actually impact, and will there be any kind of evolution of jobs? Have you ever thought about it this way, like researchers?
I think it already has a huge impact. So first of all, if you will check the number of papers published per period of time, after introduction of large language models, there is a huge spike. People started publishing more because they basically can draft more papers faster. And I will not speak about how scientific system is screwed with number of papers that you should publish at this point. Also, it's the job boards out there. So basically, people currently look for pretty senior people, and it's much harder for junior people to compete in this environment, because even I can observe that sometimes generative model can generate code on level of really nice intern. without any problems in just a seconds. And I believe for this younger generation, it's highly critical to understand how those tools actually work, adopt them as early as possible, and operate them. However, I still believe that those tools will evolve even more, and it will be even harder to work with that.
Yeah, and here is this kind of vicious circle, right? Because if GenAI can act as a junior or trainee, as you said, and can do a decent job of it, right? Then you end up without juniors or trainees. And then the aftermath of that is that you don't have intermediate engineers because you don't have any juniors evolving into intermediates. And then you don't have seniors because you don't have, there's this whole kind of vicious circle that you still need to invest in juniority in companies. You still need to invest in career development, even though GenAI can do the junior level coding for you, right? Because you end up potentially in a very kind of risky, top-heavy, space.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I also see the other angle. For example, there is the part of the part where the LM can generate, for example, code or perform some task on the level of junior. But at the same time, if junior knows how to, as you mentioned, use those tools very well, they can produce the outcome as an intermediate, for example. Mm-hmm. That's what I observe. Or maybe with the speed of intermediate, or maybe with the accuracy of intermediate. And then it appears that junior might be competitive for the senior for some specific tasks because he knows how to use these tools really well. And then senior also should know how to use it. I mean, for me, and then the productivity come in place. I know this really populistic phrase always somewhere on LinkedIn, but AI won't replace you, but people with AI will do. It's really populistic, but it's true. I mean, you should enhance your skills as well. And if you do not use your day-to-day tool, you might not. First, you might lose some expertise because of the pace you gain it, and because, for example, today I don't know, from fairy tales with my daughter at night to some researching the information, it's much faster. I just make a picture, ask the questions, get the answers, and wow, I already have the basic knowledge in the topic. I don't need to even Google it. So it became much faster. So I mean, if I need a basic level of certain competency, I can do it quick. So then, So for me, just not only eliminate juniors, but also create higher competitions within intermediate.
I get it. Add them this edge, or give them this edge, right? And I get it because you're talking about evolution, not eradication of juniority. True. Damyr, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, there is a trap to it. Because if you are not mature enough, for example, in software engineering, you will not find a place of hallucination for the code that is written. Yeah. And there is another problem people talk about is that the quality of the code significantly reduced, even like for all the levels, because people just rely on what is written for them. And if you want to use this tool, you have to be very cautious and you need to have this expertise. You still need to know the basics. You still need to know data structures and everything. But people started missing this point, and it's always critical. Like we shouldn't eliminate juniors. We just should teach them and spend that same time on mentoring them in terms of the quality of the code that they produce.
Yeah, exactly. So give them additional tool sets to develop into juniors 2.0, let's call them, right?
And it's also about the mindset. There are the persons that used previously Stack Overflow, for example, in the way that they try to understand what is written there and find those, I would say, pitfalls. And at the same time, there is someone who just take and implement. And I think mindset should be also responsible, because once you're responsible about what you take and put into real world, you should gain some knowledge in the domain, and then it just help you to eliminate hallucinations at least, right?
Perfect. And this word has been popping up in this episode so much. Let's kind of debug this. Well, what are we talking about hallucinations? And it's not about mushrooms, right? Well, why? Explain it for the sake of the audience. What's hallucinations in GenAI?
So basically, as I mentioned previously, we perceive generative AI model as successful if this model is capable of generation of something that wasn't in the original training data set. So their intention is to generate something new. and it generates those new things, but they are not always correct because there is some certain level of stochasticity to the effect. It will have some errors there, or there might be some errors in the data set, or the understanding of the concepts that happen there will be misinterpreted by this model, and you will get those kind of bad results. But they are bad just for us because we know what is true as collective mind of humanity.
And those are hallucinations. That's what we call hallucinations. Perfect. There you go. You see, you learn something new every day. Fantastic. And another anecdote I wanted to kind of raise here, as you mentioned, the bedtime stories. True story. I actually asked ChatGPT to produce me a bedtime story for my son, with him being a main character in it.
Okay.
Create a bedtime story with Elliot being a main character, traveling through the world and discovering. It was fantastic. It kind of wrote me a kind of a chapter-long bedtime story that I read to my son, and it's fantastic. It's a silly thing, but it kind of gives you an understanding of how powerful the tool is. It's brilliant.
We can even create, outro of our session in advanced GPT mode, and it will be also, a good. Might be a good idea in the end.
Let's try to do this.
I just wrote the session. I thought, what can we do with GenAI for our today's session? And the first idea was to clone our voices and ask, viewers to find where is the place of this, of our conversation where everything was generated and replaced. But it's too much work for us as a homework. Advanced mode of OpenAI in real time seems to be much easier.
Yeah, but this is exactly why I love R&D. It's just it's crazy, kind of innovation and things you can do with technology that normally wouldn't kind of think of, right? Perfect. Okay, so last question, guys, because we can talk about R&D, all day, every day, but kind of maybe putting aside GenAI, but what's the next big thing? And it's such a vague question again, but do you see any kind of further developments in technological sphere that would play a huge impact on, for our clients or how we do things, similarly to kind of maybe GenAI?
Well, I think, right, that the most impactful thing that we should wait in near term to midterm is appearance of this AGI, right, of the general artificial intelligence we all are looking for. I believe that it will bring the most value for the customers. Like if we speak about technology/software consulting companies, right, companies services that we provide to customers. But in terms of general technology, I would think any breakthroughs in energy would make the most sense, right? Because all of those models, they need a lot of energy. Not to say that we are, as human beings, that we really need that heat, right? And also some breakthroughs in understanding of fundamental properties of how our world works. Because currently AI enhanced, for example, drug discovery already using some models out there. If we will be much more effective in curing cancer and all of those horrible diseases, it will be also a great help. And the thing that all of those pieces are interconnected, that's the best, right? Because you want to have AGI, you need to have energy supply. You want to have AGI to solve some real tangible problems. You want to cure something like cancer, not only optimize marketing strategy. However, it can do this optimization.
Connecting dots. Absolutely. I get it.
And as mentioned, there is also the players who, with the shovels, who benefit those things as basically hardware producers like NVIDIA. So I think inevitably, together, just classic hardware all together with hybrid and combined with quantum and all the other type will evolve, because we need huge infrastructure, huge highways in order to enable all of those new architectures that most probably should consume more energy, that should be more complex. That means all the fields should develop all together. Infrastructure, hardware, new architectures, and also applicational layer for the business. So, and that's our place. So the trends are here, and for me, it doesn't feel that there will be something completely new. Maybe it may be replaced with new hype term in order to bring new investments in the field. Maybe not in the next 1-2 years, but next 5 years, maybe agentic AI or maybe any other new term, just marketing term in that sense will pop up in order to set the investment, I would say, climate on the market. But in general, I think next 5-10 years will be within infrastructure and AI development.
Something that I would like to comment, right? While you work at R&D, you always understand that there is a huge layer of unknown in front of you. And we still might not even see what will happen afterwards as an outcome of different pieces of research, because some tools, they just start working in pretty different way they were intended to. So it's like similar, okay, we can make a fundamental breakthrough in physics, but then it results in transistors, and transistors will result in all the brilliant technologies that we have around us.
Oh, makes sense. No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, there's probably not going to be something completely new, but just an evolution of something. And I like, Damyr, how you said, and you touched on the kind of medicine aspect of it, or Medicare, right? Because, again, I've seen the kind of papers on, it was a kind of cancer discovery module within AI, which is fantastic. They can help speed up the process of discovering early stages of cancers, for example, for then the doctors to act quicker. For example. This is fantastic. This is all done by AI. And there's always this kind of hallucination, as you call it, or maybe not in this case hallucination, but kind of error percentage, right? Success rate. But it kind of creates at least for me, the vision of this becoming a fantastic tool for future to help us in any other kind of areas of our life apart from just, business, because it could impact our health, our climate, and everything around us. So I see. I don't know. I like to kind of summarize this as maybe the future is looking bright. That's what I want to say. In my opinion, I'm not scared of AI. I don't know. Are you?
Maybe
I'm eager.
Maybe in the version of humanoid robots that can follow a part of me, but in general, of sure, it's like the next.
Come on, iRobots. I would love to have a personal iRobots
at home, right? Humanoid robot. Yeah.
Making me coffee. Good, guys. Anything else to add?
No. Thanks for hosting us.
Really insightful conversation, and I mean, hopefully, meet one more time was the next technological leap.
We can talk about quantum, but I will need a whiteboard. So.
Oh yeah, let's do this. I'm quite curious about quantum, but it's such a. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to say I'm not smart enough, but it's such a kind of huge piece of technological sphere to understand. And another topic, another episode, absolutely. But guys, it was lovely to have you, and I really hope that our audience learned something new, or at least found this interesting, because I know how much I found it of interest. As I said at the beginning, I'm biased. I love R&D, so I hope to kind of see you again in a different episode on a different topic. So thank you very much, both of you, and to our audience, stay curious.